Hello guys, this is Mr. Cole. Welcome to another one of our video lectures. Today we're going to be going over the Articles of Confederation. So yesterday we learned about the Declaration of Independence, how it reflected these ideas of the social contract and natural rights as our justification for leaving Great Britain. Well, the Declaration of Independence is not actually a form of government. It's a document that explains why we're leaving, but at the end of the day, it's just a breakup letter, right? It's just, here's why we're leaving. It doesn't actually establish what we want in our country's government. So the Continental Congress had to decide on what form of government they wanted. And they originally chose the Articles of Confederation. Now, you will see with the Articles of Confederation, there's a reason we no longer have the Articles of Confederation. They were pretty much an epic failure. So, what was the Articles of Confederation? It was the first government of the United States. Now, it was made intentionally weak. So, the national government was made intentionally weak. And this was done because they were trying to avoid what Great Britain was like. They had just come from a strong national government who bossed these, individual colonies around, and so they didn't want that. So this central government of the Articles of Confederation is going to be extremely small. There's only going to be one legislative branch, one branch of government. Each state will only get one vote, so that means that there would only be 13 basically representatives running this government. Okay, now this government was called a League of Friendship. Okay, it's not really a united country yet. We call ourselves the United States of America, but really we're 13 independent countries that all are kind of working together, but kind of not. Okay, at the time, if I asked you what's more important, being a Virginian or being an American, undoubtedly, people would say being a Virginian. Being from your state was really who you were. And all these individual states just kind of got along with each other. Okay? So let's see why this system fails. Okay, this Confederation system fails because it was so weak, there was really nothing the government could do. For example, the government had no ability to enforce any of the laws that the Confederation's government passed. The Congress could pass laws, but they had no executive branch. There was no president or no what we call bureaucracy to carry out the functions of government, right? If Congress passes a law, let's say, requiring public schools, right? The Articles had no government to actually administer that. They had to ask the states to do it all, okay? And because they don't have this separate executive branch, because they don't have a central figure of president to organize all the implementation of the laws, very few of the laws actually got carried out. Okay. Another reason there was a problem, the Articles government could not collect taxes. Now, of course, the 13 original colonies, they don't want taxes because they had just paid a crap load of taxes to Great Britain. Well, of course, any government needs taxes to function, right? Mr. Cole's salary is not, paid for out of thin air, it's paid out of taxes. Right? As are all the government services, the roads, the highways, the military. That's all paid for by taxes. And the Articles did not have that. Now that becomes an even bigger problem later on, so remember that one as we do it. Along with this, the Articles government was not allowed to raise an army. Well, I take that back. They could raise an army, but they had to ask the states to send soldiers. So they couldn't just mandate, I need this many soldiers. They had to be like, hi, Virginia, can we have 1,000 soldiers for the Revolutionary War? So really what you have happen is the states are really the ones that have the military power. So you kind of have 13 individual armies and not really one unified system. That will also come back to bite them as well. Along with this, the Articles government had no national judicial branch, meaning if there was an issue between a person from Virginia and a person from Maryland, it had to get settled in one of their court systems, which of course that could be biased. There was no national court system that you could go to when there was these disputes between states. Along with this, it was almost impossible to pass laws. They needed 9 out of 13 states. That's a pretty heavy burden. And the Congress also didn't have the power to regulate commerce. Commerce means business. So any business activities, for example, establishing a common currency of money, they could not do. Making laws about, anything, farming, banking, they couldn't do anything that involved business. So once again, pretty much hardly anything the Articles of Confederation government could actually do. Now, why this becomes a problem is because we have a lot of issues from the Revolution. Number one, we have to pay back our debt. Okay, the Continental Congress during the Revolution pretty much funded the war based on debt, and especially debt from Europe. Now, with that, we had to pay that money back. And of course, since we can't tax anybody, we don't have any money to pay it back. So individual states and the government was literally going bankrupt. And we got to the point where basically nobody would loan us money. And so we were in a really bad situation with our monies. We didn't have enough money to fund the government. We didn't even have enough money to pay our former soldiers, which you'll see come up here in a second. Along with this, the British refused to leave their forts. Okay, so the British, even though we won the war, still occupied much of the United States in some of their forts and things like that. But really the biggest issue was an event called Shays' Rebellion. And what Shays' Rebellion was, it was a revolt by farmers, many of whom were former soldiers, who were, one, mad that they had not gotten paid their debt that they were owed from the Revolution, but also that their farms were being foreclosed on. The economy got really, really bad in the late 1780s, and many farmers start to lose their land because they couldn't pay back their loans to the banks. And so what you see happen in Massachusetts is Daniel Shays, a former Revolutionary War soldier and a farmer, leads a little miniature rebellion against the United States government to basically get these foreclosures stopped. And they're really successful. I mean, Shays' Rebellion goes on for months, and the United States government can't stop it. And so it highlighted two things. Number one, it highlighted, holy cow, we need to have a stronger military and stronger national government to prevent these types of rebellions. But it also got our leaders talking. And you actually see quite a number of letters between many of what we call our founding fathers, where they start to discuss the idea of maybe the Articles of Government isn't what's best for the country, and that maybe we need a government that has a stronger central power, a stronger national government to protect the rights of property, to regulate commerce, to have a strong military, okay, to pay off our debts. Maybe the central government needs more powers. And so it sets up for what will eventually become our constitutional convention, in which we will draft a new government in result of the failures of the Articles. So that is where we'll leave off, guys. So have a great day. And remember, the biggest thing would be understanding these weaknesses of the Articles. All right, thanks, guys. See ya.